What if the very definition of wealth you have been taught your entire life is completely backward? Think about the messages we receive every single day. Most people believe that being wealthy simply means having the ability to buy lots of expensive stuff. Fast cars, massive houses, and designer clothes everywhere. We look at someone driving a brand new luxury vehicle and immediately assume they must be incredibly successful and financially secure in their personal life. But the math shows something terrifying. The more you act like a typical consumer, the closer you actually get to being completely broke and stressed. When you spend $100,000 on a luxury car, the only thing we know for sure is that you have $100,000 less. You might look rich on the outside, but your bank account is telling a completely different story. Income does not equal wealth if you spend it all. Morgan Housel, in his brilliant book The Psychology of Money, states a principle that changes everything. Wealth is actually what you do not see. Wealth is the luxury cars not purchased, the shiny diamonds not bought, and the expensive home renovations postponed for a much better future date. It is the money sitting quietly in an investment account, compounding year after year, completely invisible to your neighbors, friends, and everyone else around you. We are trained to judge financial success by outward appearances because we cannot see other people's bank accounts, brokerage statements, or their massive credit card debts. This creates a dangerous illusion. You end up trying to keep up with people who might actually be drowning in high-interest debt just to maintain their image. Warren Buffett famously warned about this exact behavior. He said, "If you buy things you do not need, soon you will have to sell things you need." Every time you swipe your card for something designed to impress others, you are trading a piece of your financial freedom for a brief moment of validation. The truth is, true wealth gives you options, flexibility, and peace of mind. It is not about upgrading your lifestyle the second your paycheck finally increases. If you want to build real financial independence, you have to completely destroy the consumer mindset that society has carefully programmed into your brain since childhood. Let's talk about the silent wealth killer that destroys millionaires and average workers alike. Lifestyle inflation. It usually starts with a moment of celebration. You finally get that promotion at work or a substantial raise you have been fighting for. Your monthly income jumps up, and you feel incredibly successful. But almost immediately, your brain starts rationalizing new expenses. You think to yourself, "I work hard. I deserve to treat myself to something much better." So, your perfectly fine old apartment suddenly isn't good enough anymore. You decide to upgrade to a luxury high-rise downtown with expensive floor-to-ceiling windows. Then, you look at your reliable used car and decide it does not reflect your new corporate status. You sign a massive loan for a luxury sedan. Your grocery habits change too. You stop cooking at home and start dining out at fancy steakhouses, ordering expensive wine to celebrate your elevated social status. Every time you swipe your premium credit card, you get a rush of dopamine. You truly feel like you have finally made it to the upper class. But there is a dark side to this consumer behavior. Your lifestyle is inflating at the exact same speed, or even faster than your actual income. At the end of the month, you open your banking application expecting to see a huge surplus of cash from that big raise you received. Instead, you stare at the screen in absolute horror. Your savings account balance has barely moved, and somehow your checking account is hovering near zero. Meanwhile, the invisible debt monster has grown larger. Your monthly obligations, the car payment, the premium rent, the credit card minimums, are now completely suffocating your cash flow. You realize you are not actually building wealth at all. You are just acting as a middleman, transferring your hard-earned salary directly to massive corporations. You are working longer hours and taking on more stress just to make banks, car dealerships, and luxury brands richer while you stay exactly the same. You are officially trapped in the consumer cycle. It is like running on a financial treadmill that keeps speeding up every time you get a raise. No matter how fast your legs move, you never actually get closer to financial freedom. You are just running to stay in the exact same place. To completely break free from this exhausting consumer treadmill, you must deeply understand one fundamental financial concept that changes everything. It is the crucial difference between an asset and a liability. This is exactly where the truly wealthy separate themselves from everyone else. The definitions taught in traditional accounting classes are far too complicated. Let's simplify it so it actually makes practical sense for your daily life. A liability is simply anything that takes money out of your pocket. It demands continuous cash flow just to maintain its mere existence. Let's take that brand new luxury car you just financed. It looks totally amazing on social media, but let's look at the real math behind it. The precise moment you drive that new vehicle off the dealership lot, it instantly loses roughly 20% of its total financial value. Add in the mandatory loan payments, the expensive premium insurance, the gas, and the maintenance. This asset is actively bleeding your cash every single day. An asset, on the other hand, is the exact opposite. An actual asset is anything that actively puts money back into your pocket. It works tirelessly for you whether you are sitting at your desk, taking a nice vacation, or sound asleep in your bed at night. For example, buying a single share of an S&P 500 index fund gives you direct ownership in the 500 largest American companies. Historically, the broad stock market has returned an average of about 10% per year over the long term, creating massive wealth for patient investors. The core difference in psychology is this: the average consumer spends their entire life working hard to buy expensive, rapidly depreciating liabilities. The intelligent investor, however, lives completely below their means and uses their hard-earned capital to buy powerful, income-producing assets. Consumers aggressively buy things that make them look rich today. Investors quietly buy assets that guarantee they will actually be wealthy tomorrow. Once you clearly see the brutal math behind this trade-off, buying unnecessary luxury items suddenly becomes much less appealing to your brain. If the mathematical difference between an asset and a liability is so painfully obvious, why do millions of smart people continue making terrible financial decisions? The answer has absolutely nothing to do with spreadsheets or math. It is entirely driven by deep human psychology, ego, and the desperate need for validation. Whenever you see something expensive, a tiny, loud voice inside your head starts talking. This is your ego, desperately wanting to show off to strangers. You open social media and see everyone you know going on exotic vacations, driving new cars, and living seemingly perfect, incredibly wealthy lifestyles online. This creates a toxic psychological trap called keeping up with the Joneses. You feel intense pressure to spend money you don't have just to fit in. But here is the man in the car paradox. When you drive a flashy car, you think everyone is admiring you and your amazing success. In reality, nobody cares about the driver. They are just imagining themselves driving that exact same car. You bought it for nothing but temporary ego. Morgan Housel says it perfectly. Spending money to show people how much money you have is quite literally the fastest way to have less money. To master the psychology of spending, you must separate your fragile ego from your financial decisions. You must completely stop caring about what other people think. This brings us to the ultimate wealth-building superpower: delayed gratification. It is the disciplined ability to resist a smaller reward today for a massive reward tomorrow. Warren Buffett famously explained this exact mindset. He said that someone is sitting in the shade today only because someone planted a tree a long time ago. The consumer violently chops down the small sapling to build a tiny, temporary fire to look rich today. The investor patiently waits for the massive oak tree. So, the next time that loud ego monster on your shoulder screams at you to buy something useless to impress absolute strangers, simply flick it away. Your defense mechanism is logic. Remind yourself that true wealth is invisible. Every dollar you successfully save today is buying a piece of your future freedom. Once you conquer your own ego, you unlock the ability to make incredibly powerful, purely mathematical decisions that will drastically change your financial trajectory forever. Now that we understand the deep psychology behind spending, let's look at the brutal mathematical reality of what consumerism actually costs you. Every single time you spend money, you are not just losing that exact amount. You are losing what that money could have eventually become. In the world of finance, this fundamental concept is known as opportunity cost. It is the massive hidden price tag attached to every purchase. When you actively choose to buy a depreciating luxury item today, you simultaneously destroy the opportunity to invest that exact same capital for tomorrow. Let's look at a concrete, undeniable mathematical example to prove this point. Let's say you decide you can invest just $200 a month. If you start at age 25 and diligently invest that $200 at a historical 10% annual stock market return over time, by the time you reach age 65, that incredibly small monthly contribution will have snowballed and grown to over $1.2 million in wealth. But what if you decide to wait? You want to enjoy your youth, buy nice designer clothes, and delay your investing journey for just 10 years. Starting at age 35 instead, you end up with roughly $453,000. That tiny 10-year delay literally costs you $821,000. Let that fully sink in for a moment. Waiting just 10 years to start taking your finances seriously costs you nearly $1 million in lost compound growth. Time is the single most valuable asset you have in the compounding formula. Every day you wait to invest, you are literally setting your own future wealth on fire. When you buy unnecessary luxury items today just to impress strangers, you are essentially stealing that money directly out of the pockets of your older future self. You are literally forcing future you to work heavily stressed for years longer, delaying your retirement, entirely just to fund a brief, fleeting moment of ego right now. Once you deeply comprehend this incredibly high true opportunity cost, a $300 pair of designer shoes suddenly starts to look like a massive $30,000 mistake. This mathematical reality entirely shifts your brain. Saving your money is no longer a painful sacrifice. It becomes the ultimate selfish act of aggressively securing your own permanent freedom. To actually apply this math, you have to actively rewire the internal dialogue inside your brain. You must kill the consumer mindset completely. This requires a massive shift in how you view the world. You must stop seeing money merely as a simple tool to buy physical things. Instead, you must start seeing every single dollar you earn as a tiny soldier that you can intentionally deploy to capture more territory and wealth. The very first, crucial step to rewiring your brain is entirely eliminating the toxic phrase, "I cannot afford it," from your daily vocabulary forever. When you say, "I cannot afford it," your brain immediately shuts down. It completely accepts financial defeat and stops looking for any creative solutions automatically. Rich people simply change that dead-end statement into a highly powerful question. How can I afford it? This forces your brain to start working intensely. Instantly, your mind transforms from a passive victim into an active problem solver. But here is the massive secret to answering that question the right way. You do not answer it by simply working 80 hours a week, selling more of your limited time, or taking on high-interest credit card debt. You ask how you can cleverly acquire a productive asset that will generate enough passive cash flow to completely pay for that luxury liability automatically. Let your assets buy your luxuries. If you desperately want a new designer item, you do not buy it directly with your hard-earned salary. You take that money, you invest it into a cash-flowing portfolio, and you patiently let the profits generated by that asset buy the luxury for you. When you successfully shift from a consumer identity to an investor identity, you completely stop chasing the empty, temporary dopamine high of buying new stuff. You realize that the absolute ultimate luxury you can ever purchase in this world is not a fancy mechanical watch or a massive coastal mansion. The ultimate luxury is having complete, uncompromised control over your own time. You are literally buying the permanent ability to wake up and do whatever you want. Once your brain is fully rewired to value your freedom massively over your physical possessions, you are finally mentally ready to build the automated wealth system. Motivation and the right mindset are incredibly important, but they are completely useless without a rigid, automated system to actually execute your plan. This brings us to the single most powerful rule in all of personal finance. You absolutely must pay yourself first, before paying anyone else. When you get paid, society desperately trains you to pay your landlord, pay the credit card companies, and pay massive luxury corporations first, leaving you nothing. Let's use the widely respected 50-30-20 budgeting rule. 50% of your income goes to absolute needs, 30% to your wants, and 20% to investments. That tiny 20% slice is your personal freedom fund. It is literally the most important money you will ever make, and it must be furiously protected. However, you cannot rely on human willpower to save that 20% manually at the end of the month. Your willpower will eventually fail you. Instead, you must build an automated software system. The exact second your paycheck hits your bank account, the system automatically moves the money for you. You forcefully route that 20% directly into your brokerage and investment accounts immediately, long before you even see the money sitting in your checking balance. You are literally paying the future, wealthy version of yourself first, totally intercepting the cash before you have the dangerous opportunity to give it to Amazon. It is basic psychology. If you do not physically see that surplus cash sitting in your primary checking account, you simply adjust your lifestyle without it. This automated approach is brilliant because it completely removes vulnerable human emotion, willpower fatigue, and your fragile ego from the ongoing financial equation entirely. Your robust system now runs flawlessly in the background, carefully executing its mission whether you are grinding hard at the office or soundly asleep. At first, this automated monthly transfer feels extremely small, maybe even insignificant. But behind the scenes, you are quietly laying down the indestructible foundational bricks. Every single month, without you ever having to lift a finger or make a stressful spending decision, your financial empire silently and aggressively grows larger. Once this automated money machine is securely locked into place, you are completely ready to unleash the true, terrifying magic of the financial compounding universe. Now that your automated system is actively protecting your money, you finally unlock what Albert Einstein supposedly called the eighth wonder of the world: compound interest. The quote states, "He who understands it, earns it. He who doesn't, pays it." It is the ultimate force behind all wealth. To truly grasp its terrifying power, imagine that small snowball resting at the very top of a massive, incredibly long, steep, snowy mountain peak. This small snowball represents your initial investments. Let's say you automate $500 every single month directly into a broad market index fund. At first, when it starts rolling down the massive hill, it feels painfully slow. You will barely notice any real compound growth in the beginning. For the first 10 years, almost all the size of that snowball is just the raw, hard-earned cash you are manually packing onto it yourself. You might even get highly discouraged. You are working incredibly hard, sacrificing your consumer desires, but your overall wealth is growing at a seemingly boring pace. But you must be relentlessly patient, because as the snowball rolls further down into year 15 and 20, something mathematically magical suddenly starts to happen. Suddenly, the immense momentum fully takes over. The snowball is now gathering massive amounts of thick snow entirely by itself, without you doing any extra pushing. This is literally your money making its own money. Your initial $500 earns interest, and then that new interest starts aggressively earning its own interest. Fast forward 20 or 30 years. That tiny snowball has completely transformed into a colossal, unstoppable avalanche of pure, generating financial power, crushing everything. Mathematically, investing $500 a month at a 10% return becomes over $1.1 million in 30 years. A true financial empire. You literally only contributed $180,000 directly out of your own pocket. The market did almost $1 million of heavy lifting entirely for you. This is exactly why time is your greatest, most loyal ally. The longer you let the snowball roll uninterrupted, the more violently and rapidly it expands. But to actually achieve this massive long-term success, you must protect your snowball from melting. You must develop an absolute iron stomach to survive the harsh winters. Of course, this journey is not a perfectly straight, easy line up to millions of dollars. Eventually, a massive financial storm will inevitably hit the global economy. The stock market will drop 20, 30, or even 40%. Your investment portfolio value will plummet, and it will look incredibly terrifying on paper. Immediately, the financial news networks will completely panic. They will aggressively scream that a catastrophic global recession is coming and the economy is ending forever. This intense, toxic media noise completely awakens a new, extremely dangerous psychological monster deeply buried inside your brain. Pure, irrational, overwhelming fear. Fear will desperately scream at you to immediately log into your brokerage account, liquidate all your assets, and panic sell everything just to feel safe today. But panic selling during a massive crash is the single biggest financial mistake you can ever make. You are permanently locking in your temporary paper losses. This critical moment is exactly where the true investor completely separates from the amateur consumer. You must rely purely on cold math, not hot, blinding emotions. Remember the brutal, undeniable statistics. Over a 15-year period, more than 92% of highly paid, professional active fund managers completely fail to beat the market index. If literal Wall Street experts cannot time the unpredictable market perfectly, neither can you. So you must completely stop trying to predict what the economy will do tomorrow. When you actively zoom out and look at the actual long-term historical timeline of the stock market, every single terrifying crash looks like a tiny, insignificant blip. You must completely tune out the chaotic, toxic noise of the daily news cycle. You mentally put on your noise-canceling headphones and actively ignore the terrifying headlines. You absolutely refuse to let temporary global panic disrupt your permanent wealth-building system. You stick strictly to your original, automated investment plan without changing a single thing. While everyone else is losing their minds and selling in pure terror, you are sitting there calmly, continuing to buy high-quality assets at a massive historical discount. A bear market is absolutely not a tragic disaster for the patient investor. It is actually the single greatest wealth-building opportunity of your entire lifetime. By staying the course through the darkest, scariest economic storms, your massive compounding snowball survives, and eventually, the market powerfully recovers and rockets to new all-time highs. Because ultimately, the true purpose of building all this wealth is absolutely not to buy a massive mansion or a garage full of luxury sports cars. The single highest dividend money pays is the ability to control your own time. True financial independence means you completely own every hour of your day. It is the absolutely priceless ability to wake up every single morning and simply say, I can do absolutely whatever I want to do today. Once your massive investment portfolio reaches the point where a safe 4% withdrawal covers all your living expenses, you have officially won the financial game. That is what happens when you finally stop thinking like a short-sighted consumer and start acting like a highly disciplined, visionary investor. You buy your life back. Remember the absolute brutal truth. The consumer blindly buys rapidly depreciating liabilities to look wealthy today. The investor buys productive assets to actually be wealthy forever. So, critically examine your habits, ruthlessly eliminate your ego, aggressively automate your savings, and confidently let the massive magic of compound interest do the rest. The mathematical choice between being a broke consumer or a wealthy investor is entirely yours. Choose to buy your freedom. Start building your snowball today. Before we wrap up, please pay close attention to this important legal disclaimer. This video content is created strictly for educational and entertainment purposes only. Absolutely nothing said in this video constitutes official financial, investment, tax, or legal advice. I am not a certified financial planner or a licensed advisor. All investments carry massive inherent risks, including the potential loss of your principal. Past market performance never guarantees future results in any way whatsoever. You should always conduct your own thorough research and consult directly with a licensed financial professional or CPA before making any serious financial decisions. If this complete breakdown fundamentally changed the way you view your money, physically smash that like button and subscribe for more deep dives. Stay disciplined. As the famous proverb states, the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is right now. Start planting today. Thank you so much for watching. If you want to learn exactly how to build this automated index fund portfolio step by step, click the video on your screen right now.